恭敬大德圣情，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，顺真无生。Will the Shankar, with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputoche. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa. 百千万劫难遭遇，我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's class number 34 on the Sutra of the Merit and Virtue of the Past Vows of Medicine Master Vaidurya Light Tathagata. That's the full official name of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Rebel Master, and all monks and nuns and all good knowing advisors, welcome to class 34. That's how I should have started. I'm still learning the ropes of how to be a proper, how to speak Dharma properly. As usual, we will begin with chanting Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times. So again, I'm going to invite everyone in joining me in putting our palms together. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Okay everyone, welcome back. Class number 34. Before we begin, I just want to say that if you are on the WhatsApp group that we have created to discuss this sutra as well as all things Dharma related, every week just before the class, you will see a request from Melinda to ask if we have any volunteers to request for Dharma. And Melinda does it every week. So I had a suggestion for Melinda, and she was already thinking about it, that we could do a monthly sign up sheet. So instead of signing up every week, Melinda can sign up for four dates into the future, the next following 4 classes, and then we can all sign up there. And I just want to take a bit of time to explain the wonderfulness of being able to request for the Dharma. Okay, why? Well, because it's partly related to today's class. We are going to continue on the 10 vows that every new Bodhisattva makes. So it has I find it very inspiring because we are not Bodhisattvas yet, or maybe some of you are. I'm not. So for someone like me who wants to be a Bodhisattva, to learn of the 10 basic vows that a Bodhisattva on the first ground makes is very, very inspiring, because if you've been following the last few classes on making vows, vows are a way for us to get into the mind of the Bodhisattva on how they became a Buddha. It makes us, if you want to know what a Bodhisattva is all about, their personality, what they care about, how they see the world, how they view the world, and from that point on, the actions that they took in order to become a Buddha, you find it in their vows. So as someone who really wants to be a Bodhisattva, learning or getting to know the basic vows of a Bodhisattva is really, really inspiring. And for those of you who have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, you can see the linkage between the vows and some of the precepts itself. And I guess with more practice, the more connections you see between the two, and it starts to make a lot more sense. So I'm going to go forward into our class today. One of the vows that a Bodhisattva makes is to be present whenever a Buddha is going to appear in the world, and support the Buddha and the Dharma. And one of the things involves requesting for Dharma. If you know that there are people in a group that can benefit from a teaching, but there's no one to request, what do? You request for the Dharma, either for yourself or most usually on behalf of everyone else in the assembly. Why? Because you have their in your heart, you want them to benefit. You only have compassion and well-meaning wishes for everyone else. So 2 weeks ago, I spoke about, 3 weeks ago, I spoke about making offerings, how when we prepare offerings for the Buddha in a monastery, because we do it every day, it tends to become a job, a task, something that has to be done. So people are short on time because they have a lot of things to do. So it becomes a robotic affair. You take the bowl, you clean the bowl, you take the food, and then you arrange the food into the bowl in a pleasing way. You want it to look nice, and that's it. It's a job you have to do, just like mopping the floor, putting flowers on the altar. But if you really think about it, if you are there at home, or if you're in a monastery, if you are lucky enough to be in a monastery and that becomes your job, if you really imagine that either Shufu or the Buddha is actually right there in the room waiting for their lunch, and you are the one who either cooks the food or you assemble the food into the offering bowl, how would that make you feel? How would you be as you are putting the food together? You know, it's a thought exercise that has a lot of how you say, what's the word I'm looking for? Ramifications, benefits. You know, if you can really imagine in your heart and your mind that you are actually going to serve Shofu his lunch, how would you arrange the food? It doesn't have to look nice, but it's the sincerity that counts. And as you do that practice, and then as you carry the bowl, if you know it's going to be for Shufu, you would walk different. You know, you would be very careful. Not that you walk very slowly, but you would be concentrating on what you were doing. Let's put it this way. And when you put it in front of Shufu, you know, you're not going to be very casual about it. You know, you're going to put it there with a lot of respect. And the whole time as you're doing this, you're only thinking about what is best for Shufu. Okay, not about how much time you have, although that may be a factor, but your main concern is what's best for Shufu. How can you best serve Shufu? And then you observe yourself after that. And you will realize that if you do it right, it's a very transformative exercise. From a job, it suddenly becomes a practice. And that happiness that you feel inside, that fullness that you feel, becomes like a bumper against your afflictions, and your day just becomes easier. Magically, you know, it's like winning the lottery. You win the lottery, you know, like you win $10 million. It's very, very hard for someone to upset you on that day. Why? Because it's just won the lottery, right? So it's kind of like that. Doing something for someone you respect and care about in a very sincere way brings a lot of benefits to the person who does that practice. So for those of you who are interested in requesting for Dharma, it's a very rare opportunity to be able to request for the Buddha's teachings on behalf of everyone else. And if you don't treat it like, oh, this is something we just have to do, but you treat it as a something that you can approach with a lot of sincerity, something that will truly evoke the response of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the Dharma protecting spirits. Because as far as I know, I mean, as far as I've heard, that is actually the case. You do, there are responses, although we may not be able to see it. Then request for Dharma becomes an opportunity to practice. It is no longer something we have to do, something where you are shy, or, you know, like in my case, I don't like hearing my voice, which is ironic because everyone else is hearing me. It helps, doing it for the goodness of everyone else helps eliminate what is called fear of the great assembly. A bodhisattva on the first ground loses, he no longer has fear. And one of the fear that he loses is what? Fear of the great assembly. Now that has many profound meanings, which I am unable to understand. But what I do understand is, in my position, as I am speaking the Dharma or sharing my experience about what I understand about the Dharma, I have a lot of fear. Why? Because, you know, how you say, you are open for people to criticize. And if you say a wrong thing or you show that you don't really understand something, it's, how you say, it can be very embarrassing. So that's how I interpret fear of the great assembly. You know, imagine speaking in front of monks and nuns who have practiced for a lot longer time than you have. you know, and they can tune into YouTube anytime they want and check out what I'm saying. And yeah, there is a lot of fear, but I've also realized that if you do it not for yourself and you just really want everyone to benefit from the Buddha's words and from Shufu's teachings, then it helps a lot in taking the self out of the equation. So basically what I'm trying to do is I want to urge everyone that we have the opportunity to request for Dharma every week. And if you understand how to put your heart and mind in the right place, it can be a really, really good practice that does not, that benefits not just yourself, but everyone in the group and everyone that listens to the YouTube recording after that. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to today's class. Okay, let me put up the slide. Oh, is this the one? Yes, but I'm getting ahead. Okay. So last week, Ron asked about Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, and I quickly answered Ron, but I also wasn't 100% sure of my answer. So I thought I would give a really accurate answer that I'm confident of today. So Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, what is it? Okay, if you look at your screen, Anuttara means unsurpassed, Samyak means complete, and Sambodhi is perfect enlightenment. So meaning, so that's why Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is also referred to as the unsurpassed, complete, and perfect enlightenment. And it is only Buddhas that have Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So as if you look at the side, it says Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is the enlightenment or the body of a Buddha, and it is superior to all other forms of enlightenment. So the term is often used to distinguish the enlightenment of a Buddha from that of an Arhat, with the former, meaning the Buddhas, superior because it is the result of the sustained practice of the Bodhisattva path over the course of many eons of lifetimes. Okay, and this is a bit confusing for some people because the Arhat can also enter Nirvana, just like an 8-stage Bodhisattva, which we learned about 2 weeks ago. And that Nirvana is the same Nirvana that a Buddha can enjoy. Okay, so a Buddha, an Arhat, and an 8-stage Bodhisattva all qualify for Nirvana, but their level of enlightenment or Bodhi is different. Okay, I have one more slide about Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So according to Mahayana schools or schools of thought, in Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, both of the two kinds of obstructions, one is the afflictive obstructions and the second one is the obstructions to omniscience, have been completely overcome. So what's the difference between Arhat's enlightenment and the Buddha? Okay. Although Arhats also achieve enlightenment, they have only overcome the first of the obstructions and not the second. So I think Shofu calls this share, section, birth, and death. And the other one was that, I can't remember right now. Okay, let me continue reading the slide. This enlightenment, which is unique to the Buddhas, surpasses all other types of realization and is thus unsurpassed, complete, and perfect. Hey, Mr. Singh, do you know how Shufu describes this? Is that why your mic is unmuted?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I saw you unmute your mic. I thought you were going to help me out. Okay. I'm going to mute you then. Huh?
Mute the mic.
Okay. I'm going to mute on your behalf. All right. Okay. Any questions? Anyone about or anything to add about Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? No? Okay. So last week we stopped at vow number 4, and I just thought for continuity's sake. Oh, I can't pronounce certain words. That we'll go back to vow number 1, so you can do all the 10 vows today. Okay, like I said, these 10 vows, not only are they how you say very close to us, because they are the fundamental basic 10 vows that all new bodhisattvas make, but if you investigate, they also in my case gave me a deeper understanding and appreciation of the bodhisattva precepts. You see how the precepts can actually are meant to help you grow into these vows. And if how you say, if it doesn't, it just shows you the parts that you don't understand and where you need to work on. Okay, so what's the first vow? First vow is 1 vows to make offerings to and supply the needs and extend reverence to all Buddhas. Okay, so meaning that anywhere there's a Buddha, he wants, this bodhisattva makes a vow, he wants to go there, make sure that the bodhisattva, the Buddha has all his needs met. You know, every form of offering, and you will find this in the sutras, you know, offerings of incense, offerings of music, canopies, banners, all these things. Yeah, that a Buddha doesn't need, but it's really awesome to be able to offer it to the Buddha to adorn the whole place. Yeah. Okay. Vow number 2. 1 vows that in all cases, one will protect and uphold the Buddha of all Dharmas. Okay, what does this mean? This means that the Buddha's teachings, everywhere he goes, he wants people to be able to have the proper Dharma. Not that he's going to try to explain the Dharma without request. I don't think a Bodhisattva would ever do that. The Dharma always has to be requested. But there are also other ways that you can share the Buddha's teachings without speaking, through your conduct, for example, through your deportment, how you carry yourself, how you respond to conditions around you, like adverse conditions. And actually, I just thought of this story, which I'm going to share, about a teaching that I received that was not a, how you say, like a direct teaching. I was, before I became a monk at CDTB as a layperson, I used to work in AO, or the administrative office, at the front desk. So what do you do? What happens at the front desk? Well, a lot of people come with all kinds of business with the temple, and one of the things is that they drop off donations, and sometimes you get a donation that is not very useful. So, for example, like an old stereo or old record player, which, you know, it's a cassette player. It's not really useful anymore, but it's not broken. So I guess people don't want to throw it away because it's not broken, but they don't want it themselves. So okay, I'm just guessing. So I think the next best thing is, hey, let's give it to the temple, and, you know, maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and they don't have to deal with it themselves anymore. So we get a lot of, I'm not going to say junk, but we get a lot of stuff that people don't necessarily want anymore. And one day, manning the phone, I get this phone call. Someone in the Bay Area. The Bay Area is kind of like Klang Valley and Kuala Lumpur. So the Bay Area and San Francisco is the kind of relation, how you say, similar. So somewhere in the Bay Area, which is about a 2-hour drive, 1.5-hour drive away from CDTB, the city of 10,000 Buddhas, says that they have a dining table that they want to donate to CDTB. But we have to go and collect it ourselves. Okay. So my first thought is that, this person is not very sincere. You know, if he was sincere, he would, you know, deliver the table to us. So what we had to do was we had to hire a truck. And I remember it was, there was a driver. I don't remember who the driver was. Then there was a monk. This monk, is from Taiwan, and myself. The three of us, we went to pick up the table. And when we reached the house, the donor's place, it was obvious that the donor was pretty well off. Okay, it was a fairly large house. They had nice cars in the driveway. And I remember thinking to myself, I said, it's not as if they can't afford being able to send the table to CDTB. So in my heart, I was just thinking, oh, these people are not sincere. They don't know how to make an offering, blah, 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 blah. And so they came down and I didn't look very happy. I'm ashamed to say that I felt like really superior, and I just didn't look really happy. And when I met the owner, the donor, and then the monk, when he saw the table, and it's just a table. It's not something spectacular or some very special table. It was just a dining table. But this monk acted as if the table was made of gold. He bent down, he looked under the table. No one looks under the table, but he bent down. He made a great show of looking under the table. He ratted the table with his knuckles, and he kept on praising the table. He said, "Wow, this table is so nice. It's made of solid wood." And he was wrapping the table here and there. And he said, "It's so big, and it's very well made." And he just kept on praising the table. And then I realized that the donor became really happy. And at that moment, I felt really ashamed because if the monk wasn't there and I was the only one to receive the offering on behalf of Shufu and CDTB, I would have made him feel really unhappy, like he didn't know how to make an offering. And I would have probably gave a very, very bad impression of CDTB and being a Shufu's disciple. And so I just want to share that was a one of those teachings that you don't really have to speak the Dharma. I mean, you can speak the Dharma in many, many different ways. I'm not saying that the monk was doing that for me. I don't know that. I think the monk, knowing him, he was just being himself. And he obviously knew how to make a donor happy when they make an offering to a triple jewel. And when we read, like, for example, the Earth Store Sutra, we find that that's really important, because when someone makes an offering and their heart is full of joy, and that's a way you bring them along the path. Okay, long story. Let's get back to the slides. Okay, let's go to vow number 3. This is a long one. Okay, now number 3. From that time, when all Buddhas depart the Tushita heaven and come back to abide in the world, on forward to the end of their teaching and transforming an eternal entry into the realm of nirvana without residue, including when they abide in the womb, up on to their birth, on to living lay life, proceeding to the side of enlightenment, they are conquering the demons, realizing the path to Buddhahood, and their first turning of the view of the sublime Dharma. Oh, that's a really long sentence. Okay, now we come to the vow. The Bodhisattva says, I will respectfully welcome all of the Tathagatas, and throughout the entire time, I vow that in all cases, I shall be entirely devoted to making offerings to them. Okay, so this vow is that when a Buddha is going to appear in the world, this Bodhisattva is going to go there first. Okay, because it says here, welcome all of the Tathagatas. And throughout the entire time, what entire time? From the time the future Buddha is born, coming down from the Tushita heaven, born in the world, up to, becoming a monk, leading the ascetic life, defeating the demons, and then finally becoming a Buddha. He's going to be, in all cases, entirely devoted to making offerings to them. And accompanying the Buddha. So how amazing is that? Okay. Let's go to vow number 4. Oh, before I forget, these 10 vows that the budding or the beginner bodhisattva makes is as vast, is described as vast as the Dharma realm and as extensive and as empty space. And it continues on and incessantly until the end of future time and throughout all kalpas. Meaning there is nowhere in the Dharma realm or wherever the bodhisattva goes, he carries out these vows. He doesn't say, oh, I'm in the temple now, I will be a good person, and when I leave the temple, I will go back to, gambling and, making jokes that confuse people, blah, blah, blah. But in the temple, I'm going to behave. The bodhisattva doesn't do that. The bodhisattva is consistent in his vows, no matter where he goes. Okay. So, okay, so this is a continuation. This is the second slide of vow number 3. That's how awesome this vow is in its 2 slides. He also makes a great vow in which he vows that in all worlds, when the Buddhas come forth into the world, descend. Let me see. Okay. Descend from the Tushita heaven place, enter the womb, abide in the womb, first take birth, leave behind the home life, achieve realization of the path, proclaim the Dharma, and finally enter Nirvana in every instance. Okay, in every instance from the Buddha first coming till the end, he will go forth to visit them, will draw close to them and make offerings to them, will serve as a leader within their congregations, will take on the practice of right Dharma, and will proceed then to simultaneously turn the Dharma wheel in all places. His implementation of this vow is as vast as the Dharma realm and as extensive as empty space as it continues on incessantly until the end of future time and throughout all kalpas. Okay, that's what I just said. So part of that you can infer is what? Request the Dharma. Okay, you look at the second paragraph, he will go forth to visit them, draw close to them. This is meaning the Buddha, and make offerings to them, serve as a leader within their congregations, and take on the practice of right Dharma, and also to request for Dharma, and then proceed to simultaneously turn the Dharma way in all places. Okay, so this is the vow that I was referring to when we were talking about earlier, requesting for Dharma. Okay, let's go on to vow number 4. I vow to teach and transform beings, causing them all to enter the path. So this vow, especially compared to the last 2 slides, vow number 3, seems really simple. I vow to teach and transform beings. But what it means is that he vows to explain, okay, according to all the Bodhisattva practices, including the paramitas. We talked about the paramitas 2 weeks ago. This vow involves explaining the principles of the practices, and then being able to apply the principle to all different conditions and specifics. And what does that mean? It means taking, say, I will not lie, and being able to have a 5-year-old or maybe a 10-year-old child understand in their way, at their level, what that means, in making a 40-year-old person understand what I will not lie means, and making an 80-year-old person also understand, according to their respective conditions, what that means. And it's not just a teaching, he also vows to influence them so that these living beings have the inspiration to want to bring forth their resolve. He inspires them at the same time. Yeah. So in everything that he does, not only is he reducing his own greed, hatred, and ignorance, but he's also showing and inspiring other people to do the same. All right. Okay. Vow number 5. He says, I vow to influence all beings to perfect the body of the Buddhas, including where they incline towards the Shravaka disciple or Pracheka Buddha path. Okay, the last two terms, the Shravaka disciple, that is the path of the Arhats or the sound hearers, and the Pracheka Buddha are also known as solitary enlightened Buddhas who, without having the Buddha's teachings around them, they gain enlightenment, bodhi, and the Pracheka Buddhas also can enter nirvana, the same nirvana as what we mentioned earlier, that the Buddhas, the Arhats, and the 8th-stage Bodhisattvas can enter. That nirvana is also available to or achieved by the Pracheka Buddha. Yeah. So what this Bodhisattva wants with this vow is he wants to enable all living beings to cut off all worldly rebirth. That means to go to the Pure Land. And this really covers all living beings. Okay, in his mind, he's thinking about living beings that are possessed of form or formless. You know, what is form? Ourselves. Okay, formless, for example, spirits or ghosts, things that we can't see, whether they be possessed of perception or free of perception, or in a state of neither perception nor non-perception. What is that like? I don't really know. Yeah. So whether they are form or formless, whether they have perception or free of perception, or in a state that neither has perception nor non-perception, okay, whether they are egg-born, womb-born. Egg-born would be like what? Chickens, reptiles, you know, snakes, okay, lizards. Those are mainly egg-born. Womb-born animals, most animals like cows, ourselves, womb-born. Moisture-born, or transformationally born. Transformationally born, I guess, would be something like, say, like a butterfly. I'm talking about real world examples, not examples that are beyond our experience. Like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, for example. Shufu says there are certain insects that can appear like spontaneously as well. So this bodhisattva has all of them in mind, and there's another thing that he has them in mind. He says, no matter how they are connected to the triple world, no matter in which of the 6 destinies of rebirth they abide, that includes the hells, and no matter in which place they have taken birth, teaching all beings possessed of name and form, teaching all beings, all such classes of beings as this. His vows covers all beings. Usually when we make vows, we just think about people like ourselves, human beings. Then if our heart is bigger, then we think about animals and, maybe a few other living beings. But for the bodhisattva of the first ground, or a new bodhisattva, he thinks of every single conceivable existing living being. That's how vast his or encompassing his vows are. Okay, vow number 6 says, I vow that through faith and understanding, I shall realize the uniform equality of all dharmas. Okay, I had a hard time understanding this, and but I not figured out. I found out. Okay, what does it mean? It says, the description is like this. It says that worlds in the Dharma realm is vast and incalculable. That means there are all kinds of different worlds. And all these worlds, some of them are described in the Avatamsaka or Flower Adornment Sutra. What kind of worlds are these? Okay, they can be subtle or very refined. Okay, they can be very coarse, meaning rough. They can be disordered. Or what is the difference between disordered? They're very uniform in their structure. Everything is in the right place. Worlds can be inverted, meaning upside down. That's the joke we make about people in Australia. They're upside down, inverted. So they're either suspended upside down in the structure, or they can be upright. And where you are laid, they say it is described as laid out with beings living on flat terrains. I think that's describing Denmark. No, no mountains, all very flat. And so the Bodhisattva vows to know all these worlds, whether in entering them, causing along with them, meaning alongside the living beings, or emerging from them, knowing them in their countless, many different sorts of variations throughout the 10 directions. So, in other words, the Bodhisattvas in all these different worlds, upside down, right side up, caused, refined, disordered, he lives together with all these beings. And with his whatever wisdom that he has acquired, he adapts and he accords with those beings in leading them to practice. Okay. So looking at the chat box, Melinda says, showing pleasant and friendly looks is also a Buddha Dharma. And Shofu in his commentary said, must have any affinity with human and also other beings. Yes. And if you don't have that affinity, what you do, you have to create that affinity, which is hard if you don't have existing affinities. Okay, let's look at vow number 7. The Bodhisattva says, I vow that in order to purify the Buddha lands, I shall extinguish all of the various forms of evil. Okay. Let me reread my notes again. Okay. I personally understand this as it's kind of linked to the first one. He says the Bodhisattva understands the principles of the teachings and then is able to adapt the teachings to the different specifics or conditions of all the various lands in helping the living beings abandon their afflictions. And he does so in a way that causes them to be delighted. So meaning that when these beings learn how to practice, they actually become happy. It's not miserable. You know, it's like, oh, do I have to go and chant the Buddha's name again? Or I know some people force their children to bow to the Buddha as punishment, which is not good, not good at all. This doesn't happen. The Bodhisattva doesn't do it that way. He manifests the teachings in such a way that causes the living beings to be delighted. Yeah. So my notes also say that he enters a single land in the same way as he enters all the lands, and he's able to make them feel with measureless wise beings, and meaning he teaches a lot of beings to become wise and help them leave behind all afflictions. So this is what it means to purify the Buddha lands. He goes in, he interacts with the living beings, and he helps them or he shows them the way for them to remove their afflictions. And this is how you purify a Buddha land. Okay. Number 8. It says, where all are engaged in the practice of a single endeavor, one vows that there will be no enmity or struggling. Okay, I'm going to read my notes. It says, he strives for the sake of being of the same mind as that of the Bodhisattvas. Okay, so the first line, when all are engaged in the practice of a single endeavor, I take that to mean that all are walking the Buddha path. Okay, everyone is aiming to become a Buddha. Okay, so he vows that there will be that you're not going to compete with each other. You know, you have, how you say, there's no competing, there's no jealousy, there's no, I'm better than you or you are better than me, and I'm going to do it better than you to show you something or for fame or whatever it is. There's no such thing. It's all very pure. So he strives for the sake of being the same as all the bodhisattvas, meaning equal. He actually, and to do this, what you have to do is the great bodhisattvas become your heroes. They become your inspiration, and you just want to be like them together with everyone else at the same time. Okay. And so what does this mean? Well, roots of goodness that he has not developed yet, he tries to develop. For example, say generosity. Okay. For some people, it's really, really hard to be generous. Okay. They can't give away anything that belongs to them. They can't share. Okay. So what this bodhisattva does is if he sees that he has any deficiency in his virtue, then he tries to he works on them to try to perfect the virtue. So he tries to reduce his shortcomings, just like the great bodhisattvas, which are his heroes. Okay, so he always practices the bodhisattva path in every single act of speech, in his mind, and in his body. Meaning his karma is always purified, the karma that he creates. And he always wants to have his mind, his mental state in such a way that he can enter the awesome spiritual powers of the Daskam ones. I think this means that in his meditation, you always want to be able to be in samadhi or not be scattered. And then he also strives in gaining spiritual powers which never recede from one's practice. That means you can read this as wisdom or understanding of the way of the world, so he can help living beings. He strives for the sake of roaming to all worlds. Why does he want to roam to all worlds? Is that like a vacation that we do? No, the answer to your questions would be the first 7 vows. If you want to know why he wants to go to all the worlds, he wants to go through all the cycles of rebirth in Dharma communities where there are great Dharma assemblies. In other words, I understand this as wherever there's a Buddha or wherever there's a great Dharma community, he always wants to be there. And there's actually a Bodhisattva precept that once you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, that if there is a Dharma assembly or a lecture that is within practical distance or ability to attend, you should attend. Yeah. So basically that's vow number 8 for this bodhisattva. Okay, moving on to vow number 9. He says, one vows to practice the bodhisattva path and to set to turning that irreversible wheel, thus causing the removal of all afflictions and fulfilling success in entering the state of purified faith. Okay, what does that mean? Okay. My notes are pretty similar to the previous slides, meaning in all his physical, verbal, and mental actions, he wants to make sure that everything he does is not in vain. That means there's a purpose, there's a reason in his acts of speech, thoughts, and action, the things that he does with his body. And it says that every single moment he will never forget his vows. Meaning every single second, every single time he speaks, every single time he uses his mind or his body, he never forgets all these vows that he makes. Okay, and because of this, he makes a vow that if anyone sees him, only even if once, these people will become resolved upon Buddhahood, which is why this consistency is very important. Okay, let me explain it in full first. He says that if not only anyone sees him, but if anyone hears his voice, even if only momentarily, just once, you just hear his voice once or you just catch a glimpse of him, he makes a vow that anyone who hears or sees him even once will become resolved to want to achieve Buddhahood. How can you do that? Well, like I said earlier, he makes sure he himself is consistent in everything that he does, that he's constantly purifying his karma or putting forth pure karma or skillful karma. In every act of his body, his thought and his speech. He's always reflecting, carrying out his vows. Okay, that's the only way that, how you put it, that the vow that if anyone were to see you or hear you would resolve upon Bodhi has any chance to ever happen. Okay, so meaning he's putting on a great responsibility on himself to never be a hypocrite, okay, and to always maintain perfect, awesome deportment and everything else. Okay. This is interesting. He also vows that he will succeed in becoming like a personification of the great king of medicine tree, that he will become like a wish-fulfilling jewel as he cultivates all the Bodhisattva practices. What is this? It is said that the king of medicine tree is amazing plant or tree that can cure any illness. So that's why he says either the king of medicine tree or like a wish-fulfilling pole, a jewel like the money pole, which all dragon kings have apparently. If you possess these two things, anything you want, you can get. It's like a genie in a bottle. You know, we have Aladdin, but those genies only give you 3 wishes, right? In all the stories. But a wish fulfilling pole can get you anything you want, anytime, all the time. So he wants to be like that, but able to fulfill living beings' wishes. How awesome is that? He just wants to make them happy. Okay. Now we go to the final one. One vows that in all worlds, one shall manifest the realization of Bodhi. All such bodhisattvas as this take the 10 great vows as foremost. In their immense vastness, they are comparable to empty space and exhaust even the bounds of the future. They entirely include all of the other incalculable many vows and exhaust as well one's ability to describe them all in detail. Okay, so let's unpack this final 10 vow. He vows that he will gain realization of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi in all worlds. So we already know Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is the enlightenment of the Buddha. Only Buddhas have that. So he makes a vow as a first ground bodhisattva. You know, as a newbie bodhisattva, he's very, ambitious. He's only a first ground bodhisattva, but he already makes this vow that in all worlds, he's going to become a Buddha. Okay? And he makes a vow that he will not abandon even the smallest of places. It's described as, say, a world manifesting within the tip of a hair. He will also appear in those worlds. And what will he do when he appears in those worlds? Well, the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi part, which means he will take on a human birth, he will leave the home life and become a monk, and then he will go to the temple, arriving at the Bodhimanda. I think the Bodhimanda is a metaphor for the practice. He will realize the right enlightenment, he will turn the wheel of Dharma, and he will manifest entering Nirvana. Okay. He makes a vow he will acquire all the Buddha's awareness and powers of great wisdom. He makes a vow that in all moments, he will always adapt to the minds of living beings, and he will manifest for them the realization of Buddhahood and cause them to succeed in achieving quiescent cessation themselves. So you always want to show people how to walk the path in a way that's very skillful, meaning his teaching is always in accordance to the person's ability to understand the teaching. Okay, let me see what else. Okay, he vows that just with a single sound or voice in speaking the Dharma, he will be able to cause the minds of all beings to become joyful. And he also vows that although he manifests the appearance of entering the great Nirvana, he will never cut off his causing in the practices of the Bodhisattva. So meaning, The Buddha entering Nirvana is not the end. And we know this from the Lotus Sutra, where Shakyamuni Buddha says that he manifested entering Nirvana. It's part of a whole plan that he has so that living beings will be exhorted to continue practicing. But it doesn't mean that the Buddha has abandoned or how you say, is taking a vacation and is enjoying his nirvana. No, the Buddha is. It is said that the Buddha is still right now on Vulture Peak, proclaiming the Dharma to those who are able to listen. So the Buddha never rests. This entering nirvana of the Buddhas is how you say, it's not what we actually think it is. Yeah, the Buddha never abandons living beings. Okay, and let me see. Yeah, so looking at this, one realization that you have is that in Buddhism, the more precepts that you have, the more you're supposed to be an example of the teachings. So the greater your precepts, the greater the example you should be. And if you have the 5 precepts, then you should really exemplify what the 5 precepts are to people who are not familiar with Buddhism. You have the 8 or 10 precepts. Instead of feeling proud of yourself, no, you should be an example to people who are holding the 5 precepts. And the list goes on. So, for example, people who have left the home life with all their hundreds of precepts should only mean that they should be a greater example or try to be. I would say not be a greater example, but in every moment strive to be a greater example. Yeah, I think it's more fair to say try to be rather than be, because everyone has their own causes and conditions. Yeah. Okay, it's almost time. Let me get my handbell. In the meantime, does anyone have any questions? I'll put my handbell a bit far away. I have to go stand up and get it. Okay, Melinda says we cannot do all the 10 great vows as the first stage bodhisattva, but we can help to request Dharma. Yes, Melinda, yeah. Yes, these 10 vows are a bit, how you say, they're great vows. They're really great vows, so it's kind of beyond us. But at the same time, it's not, because you can only understand these vows to the extent of, we can only understand these vows to the extent of our own ability. So as much as you understand, that's as much as you can actually put into practice. And then the more you practice, the more you understand. And then before you know it, you become a bodhisattva of the first ground. And you are actually able to make these 10 great vows, because why? You see yourself, how am I going to put it? You actually see your potential. You understand your own potential. And although you know you won't be able to achieve the 10 vows immediately, but you are really, really clear on how you can. That's what I mean when I say see your potential. Okay. Okay, Lucy has just reminded me to do 3 vows to Shufu and class ends. Yes, thank you, Lucy. All right, I am going to find the slide for dedication of merit. Okay. My PowerPoint just crashed. Okay, hold on. Let me look for my slide again. File, open. Oh, no, that's not the one. Okay, bear with me. And let me open up my PowerPoint again. But first I have to look for it. Okay. Everyone ready? May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone. Thank you. And we will see you next week. Okay, Amitabha.